Hello YouTube. This video is about doing the first toe adjustment to the front end of our 1949 gasser. The caster and camber angles were set when the axle was put together. The only thing left to do is the toe. To get the pitman arm pointing straight forward, and because I don't have a steering wheel, what I'm going to do is turn lock to lock and find out how many turns it takes to go lock to lock and put it halfway in the center of that. So right there is all the way to the left. We got half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6, 6.25. To get the pitman arm pointing straight back, I have to go back 3 1/8 turns. So there's a half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3 1/4. And that should have the pitman arm pointing straight forward. Now I can tell by looking at the wheel that it's turned slightly to the left. But if I put an 8 on the wheel, it really shows that it's turned to the left. In order to correct that problem, what we have to do is shorten the drag link. If we look at the drag link ends on both sides, we can see that they're not even. So the first thing we need to do is even them up. To fix that problem, we'll remove the drag link from the car and put it on the workbench. With the drag link on the workbench, we can see that the ends are not equal. And what I'll do is I'll screw them all the way in because we want to shorten it. With the tie rod ends screwed all the way into the drag link, and if we put our alignment tool back on the front tire, we can see that it's still turned to the left. So what we have to do is shorten the drag link so that we can get an adjustment out of it. So I think we'll take 1 inch out of it. The drag link has left-handed threads and right-handed threads. And that's so when you turn the drag link, you either pull the tie rod ends together or push them apart. We want to remove our inch from the drag link on the right-handed threaded side because we have a right-handed tap if we have to tap further into the rod. So here we go. We'll take the tie rod end out. We'll mark off 1 inch. And cut it off. Here we go. Hope we're not making a mistake. It's done now. We'll round off the ends. Blow the shavings out of our thread. Put it in the vise. Take our tap and put a little oil on it. And start it into the drag link. And tap it further down into the rod. Clean our tap off for the next usage. Blow the shavings out. And make sure our tie rod end will screw all the way in. Take it out of the vise and put it back in the car to see where we're at. We'll put our alignment tool back on the tire and rotate the tie rod end until it's pointing pretty much straight forward. And that looks pretty good. We'll come back a little bit. We'll snug up the jam nuts on the end so we don't lose our adjustment. I'm just going to snug it because I'm sure I'm going to have to do it again when I do the steering wheel. Now that we have the drag link shortened to a point where we have adjustment in it, we'll move on to setting the toe on the front tires. What is toe in and toe out? Well, if you think of your feet as the front tires and the toes are pointing out, that's toe out. And if the toes are pointing in, that's toe in. You want toe in so the steering will self-correct after going around a corner. If you have it straight forward, the car will tend to wander on the road. And if you have them pointed out, the car will dart. So let's get started on setting the toe. There's several ways to check your toe. You can strap a piece of straight board, piece of metal, whatever, to the tire and measure to the edge of that piece. In my case, I have a nice straight line that I can use to measure to. On most cars, the street tires are going to have a tread pattern that's going to wander all over. You can still use the tire as a way to measure, but you got to make sure that you're measuring from the same spot on both tires. Because we have these nice defined grooves, we're going to use the grooves to measure the toe in and toe out. My wife is going to put it in the far groove, and I'm going to measure to this side groove, and we have 60 and 15/16. And we'll write that down. And go to the back. We'll do the same thing on the back, measure to the same groove, and we have 61 and 9/16. And we'll write that down. Which is the difference of 5/8. And we want 1/8 of a toe in. So we have to pull the back of the tires in by a 1/2 inch. Now I have the same problem with the tie rod as we had with the drag link, in that the tie rod end is screwed all the way into the tie rod and we have no adjustment. So we have to shorten it the same way we shorten a drag link. After several adjustments, we're at 61 1/4 in the front, and in the rear, we're at 61 1/4, so they're exactly even. And what we want to do is have an 1/8 inch toe in. What I have to do is expand the tie rod so that we get a little bit of toe in. So I'll go 1 revolution, and let's measure it again. And we have 61 3/8 in the front, and 61 1/2 in the back, which means the front is toed in 1/8 inch, which is exactly where we want it. We'll snug up our jam nuts to keep it in position. Both sides. With that final adjustment made, we have our tires towed in by 1/8 inch, which is exactly where we wanted it. I believe we've accomplished what we set out to do. If you enjoyed this video, there'll be more.